and welcome. I'm Melinda Kinlami. Tonight, Kaduna State Government relaxes 24-hour curfew imposed on Kaduna metropolis following communal clashes. Members of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria hold a march from Nasarawa to Abuja a day after some of its members engage in a deadly clash with soldiers. Former Minister of Works and one of the founding members of the People's Democratic Party, Chief Tony Anenih, dies at age 85. And a 97-year-old woman, two brothers and a couple are amongst the 11 people killed in an attack at a U.S. synagogue. We begin tonight from Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria, where the state government has relaxed the 24-hour curfew it imposed on the state capital and its environs last Friday. This decision was taken at the end of the State Security Council meeting earlier today. This is coming just as residents count their losses under the curfew.
It's the curfew that had to be reimposed by the government after violence broke out again in the state capital over the killing of the traditional ruler of Adara Chiefdom in Kachia local government area, Chief Maiwada Galadima, by suspected kidnappers. On the surface, the situation appears to be pretty normal in the city as residents remain indoors, but beneath the apparent calm, the curfew is having a telling effect on the socio-economic activities of the residents. Besides the empty roads, markets and other social recreational centers are deserted and closed. There are security personnel everywhere to ensure that there is no further breakdown of law and order. On a Sunday morning, most residents choose to remain indoors instead of going to church, and where the services are held, the turnout is very low.
We need peace, but of course that we've been held against our will to be at home. I need to be with my people and my people will be with me, but that with this curfew it has prevented us from carrying out our duties and our work amongst our people.
I will encourage government to do more because education is key. Citizens need to be educated. They need to understand the concept of living together.
Residents want the government to prosecute perpetrators of the violence.
Justice should be the watchword. It doesn't matter who is involved. Whoever is involved, no matter how high that person is placed, that person should be brought to the book and brought to justice.
Musa Shuaibu, a trader at the popular Chenchenia market in the state capital, laments how the curfew has affected his small business.
We sit down at home and our minds are not at rest. Before, we used to go out for our daily business activities, but now we just sit down at home doing nothing. We want government to reduce the time of the curfew, and by God's grace, things will go back to normal. Christians and Muslims have been living in peace, but those behind this recent crisis are criminals.
And as if the government has discerned the mood, the curfew has now been relaxed and will be enforced from dusk to dawn to ensure that those with violent intent do not use the cover of darkness to wreak havoc.
And staying with security matters, a confrontation between troops of the Nigerian army and members of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria has resulted in the death of 3 of the sect members, while 2 soldiers were injured. According to a statement from the commander of the Army Headquarters Garrison, Major General James Inyam, the clash occurred on Saturday afternoon at Zuba Bridge in the Federal Capital Territory. He says the troops from the garrison escorting missiles and ammunition from Abuja to the Army Central Ammunition Depot, Kaduna State, were attacked by some Shiite members. The general explains that the sect members, who were supposedly in a procession, set up an illegal roadblock along the route, which the convoy of the troops attempted to clear. The statement adds, and I quote, "Members of the sect used various objects to barricade the road and also pelted the troops with stones and other dangerous items. They smashed both military and civilian vehicles, windscreens and windows. End of quote. It says when the sect members reportedly attempted to overrun the soldiers and cut away the ammunition and missiles they were escorting, the troops opened fire in self-defense and was later rescued by troops of the 102 Guards Battalion. 3 sect members were reportedly killed, while the soldiers, who sustained various degrees of injuries, are being treated at a military medical facility. In the meantime, members of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria held another march at the Yanya-Maraba axis of Nasarawa State on their way to Abuja today. The procession, which was generally peaceful, however, caused a massive gridlock along the road. Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is asking Nigerians to address the country's value system, which he believes is fast eroding. Professor Osinbajo, who was speaking at a forum in the nation's capital, Abuja, says there's a need for Nigerians to reflect on the values of integrity, fairness and truth, which will in turn address the political challenges in the country.
The questions are many and they will remain so. Many of them have to do with values, with our values, with the value system in our society and how those values, may appear to have collapsed over the years. I mean, when you look at the questions that you raise about children, bringing up children, bullying and all of that, and children even being able to share with their parents, being able to share their thoughts, their dreams, their visions with their parents. And then going into polity crisis or poly crisis and all of that, you'll find that the issues are always the same, issues of integrity. How can we stand up for what we believe? How can we, with all of the competing and, sometimes very difficult circumstances that we find ourselves, how can we truly be ourselves? How can we truly express ourselves? It's the sort of thing that you hardly find these days. And I'm very pleased that despite all of the challenges, Funmi continues to be somebody who is doing a lot of the thinking for us, a lot of the reflection for us. Because society is guided by those who are able to reflect, those who are able to think, those who are able to sit down, and try and answer the difficult questions for us.
More groups are lending their voice to the call for justice for the late Elizabeth Ochanya, who died from complications from alleged sexual abuse by her uncle and cousin. A group of lawyers in Delta State staged a roadwalk in Asaba to raise awareness on the alarming cases of rape and other acts of sexual violence.
Lawyers in Delta State on a solidarity walk through the streets of Asaba, the state capital. They are seeking justice for the treatment meted out to late Elizabeth Ochanya, the 13-year-old girl from Benue State who died of complications from alleged sexual abuse, and for many others who have suffered sexual violence.
You see that most of these victims are being stigmatized. They are afraid to speak up because they don't know what people will say about them. The society may have a pointing finger, we point at them in future. So we are encouraging them to speak up, especially the mothers. Those who cover this crime, they should please not cover it. Because the more we cover it, the more it spreads.
Not unaware of the fact that not just the girl child, but also the male children fall victims to sexual violence, the group vows to ensure that proper machinery is put in place to curb this menace.
No meaningful citizen, no meaningful human being will take advantage of the child that has been left for him or her to care for. It is bad before God and humanity. And Ochada's case is a pointer. We must stop this menace that is with us.
Lawyers are the souls of the nation, and we are going to ensure that justice is gotten into this case. The Nigerian Bar Association leadership is already looking into it critically, and we are very soon we are going to come out with something formal, and we're going to ensure that justice is gotten for Chanya, justice is gotten for every child molested, and that the nation and the government knows that children are very sacred and they must be well protected.
The recent death of Elizabeth Ochania has once again brought to national attention the plight of the Nigerian child. And just like many others who have expressed their dissatisfaction over her death, this group says it will continue to fight until justice is served.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, has been speaking on the reasons why President Muhammadu Buhari deserves re-election come 2019. The minister believes the government has performed well on most of its campaign promises and therefore deserves a second shot at the presidency. According to Alhaji Mohammed, the anti-corruption war, which was one of the 3 cardinal objectives of the government, has been fair and prosecuted credibly well. The minister was a guest on our political program, Sunday Politics.
He has rebranded governance. He has put the country on the path of sustainable growth and development. He is rebuilding infrastructure. He is implementing what can be described as the most ambitious social investment program in the history of the nation. He is ensuring that a few fat cats do not loot the national resources. At the same time, he is ensuring that Nigeria is self-sufficient in many areas, especially in food production. And above all, he has brought honor and respect back to the country, and at the same time fighting all forms of insecurity in the country. We have put in place certain measures that have made it difficult for those who want to loot our resources to do so. Case of the NHIS, Dr. Usman Yusuf. The matter has been handled at the highest level. The government and the Minister of Health are on top of this matter, and in a very short while we are going to, find a resolution to it. The issue of Babachi, of course, he was fired. Not that alone, he's been investigated by the appropriate agencies. We are not going to micromanage how these things are done, because you are the same people who would, in the one breath, say that, oh, there's no rule of law. The other breath, you say you want to stampede government.
A former Minister of Works and Housing and one of the founding fathers of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Chief Anthony Anenih, has died at the age of 85. According to family sources, Chief Anenih died on Sunday evening at the Cedar Crest Hospital in the nation's capital, Abuja, where he was said to be receiving treatment for an undisclosed ailment. The late Chief Anenih was a former police officer who served the first Governor General of Nigeria, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, as an orderly. Born in Uromi, Edo State, Chief Anenih was the state chairman of the National Party of Nigeria, that's NPN, between 1981 and 1983, helping Samuel Ogbemudia's election as the governor of the then Bendel State. He was the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, in 1993, when Chief MKO Abiola ran for president as the party's flag bearer. He was one of the founding fathers of the People's Democratic Party and played a major role in the election of the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. He later became the chairman of the party's board of trustees. In the meantime, the presidency and the president, Muhammadu Buhari, has reacted to the death of Chief Anenih. He has extended his condolences to the Anenih family on the death of its patriarch. The president has also commiserated with the government and the people of Edo State, as well as the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and he described the late Chief Anenih as a frontline figure in the country's politics. President Buhari affirms that across the political spectrum of Nigeria, Chief Tony Anenih was one who was renowned for his strong views on issues pertaining to unity and the stability of the country. In part two, after the break, we remember Dr. Stella Adadevoh, who prevented the spread of the Ebola virus in the country. Join us again for more details.